Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're in the studio. We're live because we decided to go live to chat about Erik Ten Hag's interview with Gary Neville. He's done a sit-down interview with Gary Neville ahead of the Crystal Palace game where they spoke about everything. They spoke about injuries. They spoke about the amount of shots United conceding. They spoke about not buying Harry Kane in the summer. They spoke about all sorts of everything. So we thought, you know what? Let's do a live. Let's get into it. Let's have a chat about it. And let's make sure you lot get involved as well. So do get involved in the chat and the comments and let us know what you thought of that interview, what you think about Erik Ten Hag in general. I think personally, Erik Ten Hag comes across a lot better in sit-down interviews, proper interviews. I think sometimes in a sort of post-match press conference or in just a sort of 5-minute interview after the match or whatever, it can come across as a little bit, not aloof, but sort of less engaging, shall we say. He seems a little bit sort of almost monosyllabic at times, or slightly sort of stoic, I think is the word that Joe Smith always uses. He doesn't seem as charismatic as some of his peers. However, I do feel that when you sit down with him, when you see him in a proper interview, he comes across quite well and he's able to explain himself, explain his thinking, explain what he's trying to do. And I think sometimes you can't do that in a press conference. I think sometimes it doesn't come across as well. And I think he suffers from that, Erik Ten Hag. I think a lot of people haven't warmed to him because of that. Not just because of that, because I think if you're winning football matches, it doesn't matter how you're in press conferences. No one cares. If you're winning games and trophies, you can be the biggest whopper in the world in a press conference and people are all right with it, the fans are all right with it, and the press sort of stomach it because you're winning. However, when you stop winning games, when the pressure's on you, people start looking at that side of things and they go, actually, not only is he not winning, is he even the right man for the job? Has he got the charisma to be the Manchester United manager? And you look at someone like Ange Postecoglou. Spurs lost again last night. They lost to Chelsea again last night. I think they lost to them twice this season. I was watching the post-match interview with Ange Postecoglou, and he's very sort of self-critical. He says things like, come on, it wasn't a good performance, mate, about the Spurs performance. Blames himself a lot, and also he comes across as someone who's pretty down to earth, someone you'd probably like to go for a drink with. Sometimes Erik Ten Hag doesn't seem like that. He doesn't seem like someone who's particularly warm. But I thought in the Gary Neville interview, he comes across a lot better. Let me know what you think anyway, and we'll get into it. Loads of people in the comments already. Mick Holland, Stephanie Griffiths, Santa Notch, Alex, Tyler Ward, Joe Corcoran, Dan T, Richard Porter. Always good to see you guys. Make sure, if you're not doing already, you are hitting that like button as well. Daniel Farr says there's something lost in translation too. Not working in your native language. It's difficult to put nuance on your words. Yeah, Erik Ten Hag struggled to understand me when I asked him a question in the press conference. I think that was more to do with my issues rather than his, though. To be honest with you, I think my accent was a little bit strong for him. But yeah, sometimes in your native tongue, there's certain words that you use which might not have exactly the same meaning that you think they do or whatever. I do think Erik Ten Hag's English is very good, by the way, but I get Daniel's point there. Sometimes the little nuances can get lost. Whitterbird Vicky says, Jay, do you think Ineos have been given the green light as that interview came out with some confidence? Yeah, we're going to get into that. It's a good question because I do feel like there was an element of forward planning here. This is what we're doing in the future. I've had a meeting with him. This is what we're going to do in the summer. Doesn't sound like a manager who feels he ain't going to be here. Now, I get it. He's not going to sit down there and go, well, next summer's the next manager's problem. I'm not even thinking about it. Obviously, he's going to be looking at it from an approach of, I'm the United manager and I have to think about the future. But the fact that he's giving that interview, like Vicky's saying, there might be something in that. Let's get into it anyway. Let's start talking about this interview. You can see here, you cannot compare different players like Kane and Hojlund. He spoke quite openly about the fact that they wanted Harry Kane and they didn't get him. They wanted Harry Kane, they didn't get him, they got Rasmus Hojlund. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I think he was sort of talking about the fact that Rasmus Hojlund is going to be a great player in the future, but just comparing those two players, you can see here there's a quote here. It says, this club can only have outstanding players because the expectations are so high. Manchester United is the biggest or maybe second or third biggest club in the world, the highest fan base, so expectations will always be there. Everyone has an opinion about Manchester United and it can only be outstanding players. That's players who have the skill set. That is the physical and especially the mental skill set. They need to perform and contribute because we have to win every game. There's an expectation around every game from us, so you can only fulfill that expectation when you have those outstanding players. I mean, all very true. However, here we go. But in the last decade and in this period, we couldn't always get the players we wanted. But then you have to build and you have to accept that you get talent instead of players who already proved it in the past. Now, that is obviously, he's talking about Harry Kane, and he goes on to say, we have some choices made with talents like Rasmus Hojlund. I can see a striker who already proved it, who we want to sign and we couldn't get him. And then we went to Rasmus because he's a talent. When asked if he meant Harry Kane, yes. And you know Harry Kane will get you 30 goals. I think Rasmus will get there, but he needs time. It's not fair to assess him the same as Harry Kane. I would never compare two players because they are different. But with Hojlund, I think we had the biggest potential in the striker position last summer, and we are happy with him. But he also needs time to adapt, and we are very pleased he showed his assets in scoring goals. It's a bit of a funny one with Harry Kane, isn't it? Because Harry Kane, and I'll get to Hojlund again, because he does sort of elaborate on that and back his man. He's not saying, but we didn't get Harry Kane, now we've got stuck with this guy. But I think we had this debate during the summer and towards the end of last season about Harry Kane. We even spoke to Rio Ferdinand on the channel, and he said Harry Kane, he felt, could push United towards the title. There's no doubt Harry Kane scores a lot of goals at Manchester United. If he comes in, I don't think it takes him a while in the Premier League, at least, like it did Rasmus Hojlund, to get going. Hojlund hit the ground running in the Champions League. I think it was 5 Champions League goals. Smashed it in the Champions League. It's a bit of a shame for him that we couldn't get out of the group. Certainly wasn't his fault. In the Premier League, I think he went, 14, 15 games or something without scoring. Became a bit of a meme and all that. Now, it wasn't his fault. Not wholly, he's got to take some responsibility, but he wasn't getting the service. His performances were good, and it was mad because there was a time when he'd got no goals and I think no assists in the Premier League, and yet every time you spoke to United fan, everyone who was in the comments, everyone kind of backed him. Everyone said, look, you can see there's a player here. I'm not worried. There wasn't this sort of, oh my God, why have we bought him attitude from everyone. Everyone could see there is a player there. And when he had that mad purple patch that he had, was it in February, he scored 7 goals in 6 games, whatever, people were kind of going, well, we knew this could happen. We were waiting for this to happen. So I don't think the manager's having a dig at Rasmus Hojlund. I can see why he's doing that, and also think that most United fans get why we went for him. You just wonder with Harry Kane, could that deal have got over the line? Because he went to Bayern Munich, didn't he, for was it about 100 million quid or something? And there was always this feeling, these reports that United didn't want to get dragged into a long drawn out sort of transfer negotiation with Spurs. We know Daniel Levy is a shrewd operator. He plays a hard bargain and all that sort of stuff. Drives a hard bargain, drives a hard bargain. It could have been a scenario where you end up sort of waiting. He doesn't end up coming to United, and then you've missed out on other targets. I don't know. I think had United gone in there with a real offer, with a proper big offer, they could have made that deal happen. Now, you might say, well, how can we afford that? And then you might have had to make some tough decisions. You might have said, okay, let's not get Mason Mount. Let's obviously not go for Rasmus Hojlund. Let's just go all out for Harry Kane. Let's spend, what was Mount, was it 55 or something million on Mount? Something like that. 70 million on Rasmus Hojlund. Could you have gone in for Harry Kane, 125 million? Would that have brought him to Old Trafford? Would that have been worth it? Obviously, he's a lot older than Rasmus Hojlund, and you're not getting 2 players, you're getting the one. Was that something they could have thought about? It's worth considering. I think it's sort of big what-ifs of football lately is what if United had managed to sign Harry Kane at almost any point, because we've been linked with him a few times. It is a little bit frustrating, but I do rate Rasmus Hojlund. I can see why the manager's saying that. He goes on to say he had a very good period where he scored many games after he showed it, but before and after that he had some physical issues, which is normal for a young player coming up, but it was a negative impact on the team result, and that's what you have to accept. Then you go back to the fans and the opinion makers, and they don't understand, or they don't want to understand this. It's how Man United gets judged. They only see the result, but we need time. You have to accept the process is going slower, and then you can't expect to straight away compete for titles in the Champions League and Premier League. Excuse me, turn that off. Let me have a look here. What's everyone saying? Sam Bean says last season was decent, but there is context. 15 goal difference in the top 4 has only happened twice before the last 20 years. Won a lot of games on fine margins of Rashford's form. Solo in the chat, good to see him. Akash Paul says we could have used that Anthony money towards Kane. Yeah, that was the season before, but I get your point. Joe Corcoran says Ange Bustinutlu, oh, very good, is getting an easy ride because journalists love him saying mate. I don't know if he's getting, I do feel there is an element of that though. Journalists like him a bit more because he's friendly, because he's down to earth. I think he does get a little bit of leeway there, because I think in terms of what Spurs have done this season, yes, they lost Harry Kane, so you've got to sort of give the manager some sort of patience because of that, but they're not that different than where they usually are. Challenging for top 4, not quite making it, I think, is what's going to happen this season. So I think he benefited from coming in, having a very good start. James Maddison, for example, hitting the ground running, and also his personality, I think, did help him a little bit. Let me know anyway what you think about the Kane thing, and hit that like button as well, please, people. Let's move on. We'll talk about this interview more. There's a little bit more. There's loads of other stuff going on. If we scroll up, talk about his game model, and Jason Wilcox has come in as technical director at Man United, focusing on a game model where every team at one club plays the same way, such as Ten Hag's former side Ajax. And he says, there's a game model here. How do you think Garnacho and Kobbie Mainoo are able to come up? That's because it's one of my objectives from the previous leadership team to bring that in. It was already going. They were already improving the academy. You can see they won the FA Youth Cup. The academy teams are becoming champions, and that is the structure that was laid out a couple of years ago. Now you see some revenues from it, and the best thing is by bringing players into the first team like Kobbie and Garnacho. Yeah, I think the academy, those two in particular, it's got to sort of be honest about this. It's not often you see sort of Premier League teams, and even, I know we can be quite harsh on United, but a Premier League team that's in the sort of top, whatever we are, 6 or 7 teams, you'll bring in youngsters and they'll start almost every game for you. Bringing teenagers will start every game for you. It doesn't happen very often. I don't necessarily think it's just, well, that's because United have become so poor and fallen, how far we done fell and all that. Garnacho was getting in the team last season. He wasn't starting every game, to be fair, but he was getting in the team when we were doing very well. Kobbie Mainoo is an amazing talent. I don't think anyone can argue against that. So those two players in particular are a credit to the academy, because they've both come in and they've both smashed it. And I think that's quite rare to have 2 teenagers. So I get why Erik Ten Hag is sort of saying, look, you can see what's being done behind the scenes. You can see the benefits of that when you've got 2 players that come in. United have had a lot of issues this season. I'm not denying that. But I don't think Kobbie Mainoo and Alejandro Garnacho have been any of them. And also, you've seen another few players as well that have been highly spoken about. We've seen briefly some players coming into the first team, having a few minutes here and there or whatever, but it's Mainoo and Garnacho the main ones who've come in and really sort of stamped their mark. If we scroll up a little bit, there's a bit more on that as well, because obviously there's a lot of speculation in there about Kobbie Mainoo, about Jason Wilcox and what's going to happen in terms of the sort of the relationship between Wilcox and Erik Ten Hag, and they're going to be on the same page. Is this going to work with Ineos's new structure in Ten Hag? Are they even going to back him? Is he the right guy for them? It's all sort of up in the air in a minute. You can see here, though, about the meetings he's had. He said initial meetings are good. Now we have to take things quickly because the summer is coming. It's a very important period where you come into a window. We want to make the next step into our squad and make plans to create an environment that avoids this year's problems and injuries. That's quite telling, isn't it? Sorry, you just go back down there. Sorry. Because he's sort of talking there about the summer, the plans, the next step. Meetings are good. I mean, it feels like, a man who's planning for the future. Now, what do you make of that, though? Do you think that he is? Do you think that he's confident that he's sort of in this job for long? Or is that just a manager who's saying the things he's got to say? He can't sit there and go, well, I don't know what's going to happen in the summer and I probably won't even be here anyway, so it's not my problem. Or do you feel that's a man who's speaking with confidence, knowing that he's going to be in charge next summer? Let me know what you think. Brewsbet Ayasi says, Jay, do you think there's a growing party culture at Man United with the likes of Pogba, Lingard, Greenwood, Sancho, and now even Rashford? I don't know about that, bro. I mean, I don't know about a party culture. I think a lot of the lads don't drink. To be honest with you, a lot of the lads that are, accusing of partying, some of them do, obviously, we know that. But a lot of the lads, including some of the ones you mentioned, I don't even think they drink, so I don't know what sort of partying is going on. Akash Paul says, his pressers recently have shown some confidence. He even swore yesterday, lol. Yeah, I don't mind a bit of that, bit of personality. CTB says, Ten Hag will stay another season. It's a bad time to bring a new manager in. Richard Porter says, I hope Ineos can actually make some proper money when we sell players. Players like Greenwood should bring in a good profit. And the Sancho semi-performance may have just upped his value. Stephanie Griffith says, Jay, if we get the cup, stop cheating, get Europa, he gets a contract extension. I think that a lot could depend on that FA Cup final. I don't know, though. I don't know. What do you think? Right, let's see what else he's talking about. The style of play. That's a big stick that's been used to beat him. We've had it. This lack of style of play. People saying, we hear it in the comments all the time. I hear it when I go to the game. I hear it in my group chat. I hear it when I'm sat here. I hear it everywhere. People saying there's no style of play. What's going on? What is this manager? Why are we not seeing what we saw at Ajax? And he says here, frustrating at the style of play not working. That's what he's talking about. He doesn't say those words. He's just talking about them. He says it's not the right word because I'm a realistic man. Last year when I came in, you make your adjustments, but at the end of the day, it's about winning games. From last year, we found a way to make a very successful team. This year, we wanted to make the next step. We brought in a goalkeeper who can play out from the back, a dynamic midfielder in Mason Mount, who's been injured all season, and a goal scorer in Hojlund, who is young and needed time. On one hand, we were quite confident we made the right choices and we made the next step, but all the injuries are coming and we made many changes in some positions like the back four. He says here about the back four, he says, we've now played 47 games and we've had 30 combinations in the back four. They weren't from choices you make, they were forced choices because the players were injured. Anyone with even a little bit of knowledge about football, they will know it will have a huge impact. I like that. It's kind of throwing a bit of shade there. And anyone with even a little knowledge about football knows that has a huge impact. Because maybe he's having a bit of a dig there at some of Gary Neville's colleagues, because some of them don't seem to give Erik Ten Hag any leeway when it comes to injuries. Listen, if you've got to change your back four 30 times in 47 games, obviously that's going to have a detrimental effect on your defence. It just is. There's no point in denying that. The question is it still inexcusable? Because having a ever-changing back four is one thing. The amount of shots we're conceding on top of that is another. And you might look and go, come on, even with a changed back four, you should be able to not concede 3 goals to Coventry City when you're 3-0 up. So I get it. You shouldn't be conceding 20 or 30 shots or whatever it was against Luton. Like, there is a sort of a counter-argument to that. But I do feel that the amount of injuries we've had defensively has cost us. And I said this when we were off the bar yesterday. We're having a bit of a debate about some of Ten Hag's results and about the City games in particular. And some of them, I'm not going to excuse. The one at Old Trafford this season I thought was poor. Poor performance, poor result. City barely got out of second gear. Unacceptable for me that. You make City work for a win against Manchester United at the bare minimum. You don't just let them turn up to Old Trafford and just sort of treat it like a training game. However, you go back to the game in the Etihad, we already had a makeshift back four, and then during the game, you lose players. I think Johnny Evans got injured during the game, and he's your 5th choice centre-back, or your 4th choice centre-back, or whatever. It's really frustrating when you're losing so many players and then you're losing even more. So I do sympathise with him a little bit. And he also spoke here about Casemiro. Then Casemiro was injured for a long period. We had so many issues in the team, but you can't always play the way you want to play. But the fans want to see a successful team, a team that's winning. What we always try to do, and it's a compliment to the team, in every game, they went for it and they had a spirit. Sometimes that works. The Liverpool game in particular, that worked. We went for it, we won. Other times you think you don't need to keep going for it. Like, when we were 3-2 up against Chelsea, keep the ball. Keep hold of it. Just, do the bits you need to do to get over the line. Even if it's a bit of time wasting, what have you. The dark arts, nothing wrong with that. United's always done things like that in the past. No one minded when it was helping us win football games. Just see the game out. Even the Coventry game, I'm not saying time wasting on Coventry game, but see it out. You don't need to keep bombing forward when you've got 3-goal advantage. Just show a little bit of, maturity and intelligence there. I think that's the problem. I don't mind Manchester United going for it when we need to, but at times we've gone for it and it's cost us. He says we make the adjustments a little bit in the way of our play, but when we don't have a left-footed centre-back or on the left side in the full-back position, you have to make adjustments. You want to play, so we did. Yeah, he's right there. It's cost us, hasn't it, the left-back position, not having a proper left-back almost all season. Luke Shaw knows played a chunk of the games. Tyrone Malacia has been missing the entire season. It's been incredibly frustrating. It really has. Hopefully, it doesn't come to that. Also here it says, we are not where we want to be, the way we want to play, but the headlines are still there because we want to be proactive, be dynamic, and we want to play with a high line. That's what we always aim for. We've made improvements. We scored more goals after the winter break, and we're also more consistent. We haven't had so many defeats in 2024, only 3 defeats, but we draw too much. What we can do is put ourselves in a winning position, but then you have to draw it to bring it over the line. When you have so many changes in back four, the rules and principles remain the same, but the patterns are not there. We don't bring the results, and we know that. I kind of get what he's saying there. He's being honest, but also, honesty only gets you so far. People can see the results, they can see the performance, they can see the amount of goals we conceded, they can see the fact we've lost to the likes of Bournemouth at home, Fulham at home, Palace at home, Brighton at home. I keep going on about the home games. It's the home games in particular that hurts me this season. Jacory Trots says, morning, Jay, morning. Akash Paul says, Evan came on as a sub as well and went off injured in that City away game. Sorry, I always forget what happened with the City away game, to be honest with you. I thought he started, but did he come on as sub and then go off? What happened there? I thought I'm getting confused, to be honest with you. Let me remind myself. Man United. That's just an example, right? That's not like the sort of, the be all and end all, but that's an example of the difficulties we have. No, I think he started, didn't he? Evans, yeah. Evans and Varane started. Obviously, this is just an example of where we're at. You had Lindelof at left back, which I hate, by the way. It's not his fault, but he's not a left back, but he needs must. You had Evans at centre back, Varane and Delo, and then Evans goes off, and you have to bring on Willy Kambwala. No disrespect to Willy Kambwala, but he shouldn't be coming on against Manchester City. You also brought on Amrabat and Omari Forson. That sells an own picture, doesn't it? Two of the people you're bringing on are youngsters, and Amrabat, who's had a bit of a stink on it. Go on, let's have a look what else is here. Have you thought about playing more defensive? He spoke about that, but he's talked about proactive style of play, and then when the players are back, you have to return back to the proactive, and you have lost many times. Yeah, he doesn't like, he's saying there, the players will return, so if you then adjust, if you go in a defensive style, when you get the players back that you want back, then they have to adjust to the defensive style that you then want to get rid of. That's his reasoning behind that. I kind of get it. It's just a little bit more pragmatism is needed at times at Manchester United. That's my big bugbear with all this. I get what he's saying, and I kind of agree with it to a certain extent, but I do feel there's times when we can be slightly more pragmatic, and I don't feel you can just say, well, we don't want to go defensive because players are going to come back to a defensive style that isn't our style, and then we're going to have to change it again. I think even within games, you can at times be more defensive. It's not just black and white. Like I said, if you've got a goal, you've got to protect, so a lead, you've got to protect, you can do that. Yeah, go and scroll up. I'm done with that one. What else is he talking about here? This is it, the shots. On their 600 shots on their goal this season, they're most ever in the Premier League. And he says, I see the stats and it's clear. Last season, we had the consistent back four. We did the same. We had the most clean sheets in the Premier League. So when everyone is fit, they can deliver the way we want to defend. But it also has something to do with the possession. When you don't have the players at the back and the patterns, then you don't have the left-footed players on the left side, you already have to make your adjustments. Again, I get it. I do. And there's an element of truth to everything he's saying. It's just how much sort of truth is in there. Is it all down to these injuries, or does he have to take a little bit more responsibility? But it does make a lot of sense. Let me know what you think. Doyley says, morning Jay, I hope he does stay. We can't go with another manager. Then 18 months later, another manager comes in after players down tools again. Antel says, the simple fact is with the football calendar getting more and more congested, injuries are just a fact of life. If you can't train your squad to perform, are you really good enough? Joe Corcoran says, new exec team is not even there yet. People are just wishing for change to happen faster than possible. Ash says, Amrabat, Delo, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Short and Anthony have all had a go at left back. That says it all, doesn't it, really? Look at some of those. Stephanie Griffith says, injuries happen because you are not committing properly to challenges, conceded too many deflected goals and stupid pens. Hit that like button as well. Is there any more for any more on that? Yeah. On defending his players, this is something I kind of sympathise with Erik ten Hag. He spoke about defending his players. He gets a bit of criticism, doesn't he, when he defends his players. And he says, I have to defend the team against some unfairness in press conferences. We can accept this. We know the standards. And in the first place, we are not happy with the season, but we know we can win a cup this season, stay positive. Everything is judged negative. But in our attacking game, we improved over the course of the season. Some young players are improving a lot. And that is unfair to say that everything is bad. Also, the young players need time to get to their best levels, but they have the potential that they show this season. And that is, sorry, what was that? Let's scroll down. And that is the positive. He also goes on to say, now we need a consistent team. And when we have that, we are confident we can bring in more wins. We've had two opportunities. First of all, we have to defend our position in the league. So that is one focus point. The second, of course, we go twice in 2 years to the FA Cup final, which is a great opportunity to win a cup again. Let me know what you think. Do you have any confidence of winning that? Pigeonhead says, what sort of dosh can we get for Sancho? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, if you keep smashing in the Champions League, you might get a decent bit of money. So Walt says, Ten Hag and Sancho need to work it out. Adam says, he proved it last season. He's obviously not stupid. Give him more time. I think he's talking about Erik ten Hag there. Yeah, it's a bit of a sort of mixed bag. I think more people are backing Ten Hag than are turning against him. That's just my feeling. I think we've done polls on it in the past, and it does seem like he's still got a lot of support. A lot of it may come down to that cup final. James Murray says, consistencies are my concern. Seems like they only play when they want to. Not getting back, jogging like they're not bothered. Need to be working hard all game, not just in spells. John Carberry says, just been interrupted by a Piers Morgan advertisement. Not my fault, that, bro. Apologies. Nothing to do with me. I'm going to wrap it up there. I think we've covered the nuts and bolts of that interview. Just wanted to go through it all. Thanks for everyone getting involved in the chat and the comments. Going to be back later on today with The Brew. If you've not done so already, go and check out Off the Bar, where we talk about Erik Ten Hag's future. Debate between Joe McGrath and Joe Smith, the Sloppy Joes 2. Have a little bit of a debate to see whether Erik Ten Hag should stay or go, and let us know what you think about that. Don't forget as well to hit like, share and subscribe. I'm Jay Motty. This has been a live Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.